Felix Vega preferred to paint when the city slept. When Chicago shut its eyelids, bars coughing out last call patrons, Brown River black as ink, he'd shoulder a duffel stuffed with cans and disappear below ground through a maintenance hatch near the Roosevelt stop. Down there, the Ghost Loop, an abandoned spur of track that ran under the South Branch curled like a fossil. No security cameras, no buskers, just echoes and the smell of rust. Perfect solitude. Felix valued that hush the way other artists treasured applause. He rarely showed at openings, never tagged social media, and dodged the street auteurs that begged for interviews. What he wanted lurked in the invisible hours. Time to empty his head onto concrete. For 2 months, he'd been working on a mural that wrapped an entire platform wall. A riot of colours, tangerine, cobalt, viridian, formed an impossible skyline where fire escapes morphed into dragons' spines. Pigeons wore gold halos, and the river curled upward like a ribbon of silk. Each layer felt like a confession, even he couldn't decode. Tonight he planned to seal it with a final pass of clear coat. Descending the third rusted ladder, he tasted ozone. The loop had always had a faint electric smell, but this was fresh, almost metallic, as if lightning had passed through. He flicked on his headlamp. The mural waited, luminous in the beam. Except something was off. One of the haloed pigeons stared at him from a new perch. 3 bricks to the left of where he'd painted it. Felix rubbed his eyes. Maybe exhaustion? He raised the headlamp. The dragon's tail twitched. An actual twitch. Jointed and snake-like, scraping flecks of emerald paint against the tiles. Felix stumbled back so fast he dropped a can. It clanged and rolled along the rails. The mural froze again, flat and inanimate, but the uncorked shock didn't drain from his chest. He backed away until his heel hit the platform edge. When nothing else moved, he retrieved the can, tried to laugh, and decided he was done for the night. On the ladder up, the fluorescent tubes that still functioned flickered to life. Harsh pink light pooled around him. Bad sign. The power grid here was dead. The bulbs shouldn't work. 40 feet below, the mural pulsed, as though breathing with the faintest of sighs. He didn't finish the climb. Instead, he descended, hands slippery on the rungs, heart punching his ribs. He killed the headlamp. Darkness swallowed him, leaving only the neon hum. And then the wall lit up from within. Shapes peeled away like flakes of wet paper gathering mass and texture mid-air. Colour turned liquid, coiling into quasi-human silhouettes. Paint dripping in reverse toward freshly revealed outlines. They hovered inches off the ground, translucent skins swirling with his brushstrokes. Eyes formed 1 pair, 10 pairs, every iris a different swatch from his palette. Felix should have run. Instead, a quivering awe pinned him. "Creator," one swirl said. Its voice sounded like aerosol hissing through a valve. At last. Felix's throat produced something between a grunt and a question. "We're yours." The spirit continued. "You gave us shape, but shape alone doesn't guarantee safety. There are predators here." A tremor rattled the tunnel. From downline, where the rails dipped into deeper dark, a phosphorescent glare advanced, acid lime edged with fuchsia. Like electric birthmarks, the glare condensed into figures, jagged skeletons of bent conduit and busted light boxes, their joints sputtering arcs of hot pink. Neon demons, Felix realized, though he'd never used that phrase before. They emitted the same buzz as a beer sign about to short out. The paint spirits retreated against the platform wall in a defensive bloom of pigment. The neon demons fanned out along the rails, every footfall igniting tiny sparks. Felix's body decided belatedly that this was the time to act. He planted himself between wall and tracks, arms wide, duffel swinging at his hip. "Easy," he rasped to both sides. "No one needs a fight." A neon demon tilted its head. Its face was an arrangement of glass tubing shaped into a permanent grin, still half filled with inert gas. "Fresh pigment," it crackled. "Wet hearts." "We want no conflict," said the paint spirit who'd first spoken. Deep's halo glowed sunflower cellar. "We merely exist. Existence costs," hissed the neon. "Power is rationed down here. You bleed, color. We feed." The air thickened with static, enough to raise hair on Felix's arms. He had the absurd thought that this might not be a hallucination, and if it wasn't, he had responsibilities. He, after all, had summoned one side and trespassed on the territory of the other. He yanked a can from his bag, flucked white primer, no pigment, and depressed the cap. The hiss cut through the tunnel with the authority of a referee's whistle. "Parley!" he shouted, voice echoing off ceramic tiles. "I call parley." Silence swallowed the rails. The neon demons looked among themselves, tubes flickering. The paint spirits coiled tightly, chromatic nervous system in knots. Finally, the lead demon inclined its head. "Speak meat," it said. Felix swallowed. "You can't keep draining them. I can repaint, but every layer will fight you. There has to be some other source you can tap." "Generators are silent," the demon replied. "Lines severed. We feed on color now." "They steal our lifeblood," the paint spirit said, droplets flaring like sparks. Felix looked from swirling pigment to radioactive glow and realized compromise wasn't optional. It was inevitable if he didn't want a massacre literally on his conscience. "Give me one night," he said. "I'll bring a solution that leaves everyone intact, but you have to halt hostilities until sunrise." Neon amber flowed through the demon's grin. "Sunrise means nothing under stone. I'll mark the 8-hour line." Felix tapped his watch. "When the minute hand hits 12 again, decide if I kept my word." The demon eyed him, then drifted back, glass heels cautiously touching rail. "We will wait. One cycle." The paint spirits offered no objection, only relief, a dulling of their formerly vivid surface. Felix exhaled and climbed, forcing shaky steps up each rung into night air that smelled purely of rain. He didn't own a car. No cabs prowled this desolate stretch at 3:00 a.m., so he jogged north along the river, thoughts streaming faster than his breath. He recalled an artist friend, June Cazares, queen of neon, bending tubes into cursive galaxies for rooftop bars. She'd once mentioned phosphor powder that glowed with minimal current, a half-life better than hope. If Felix could broker a trade, offer paint energy in exchange for sustainable luminescence, maybe both sides could thrive. At June's Pilsen workshop, he hammered on the corrugated door until lights flicked on inside. "Jesus, Vega, I should call the cops," June said when she cracked the door. Her sleep-mussed hair jutted like broken antennae. "I need your scrap," he panted. "Every tube you can spare, coated, uncoated, anything that glows off trickle charge. And transformer guts, if you've got them." "Is this an art emergency or a mental one?" "Both." June wasn't his favorite person, too chatty, too extroverted, but she recognized manic inspiration. In 30 minutes, she'd piled a dolly with salvaged tubes, powdered phosphors in Ziploc bags, and even a spool of electroluminescent wire. Felix promised a yet-to-be-painted favor on her future wall and took off. Dawn plucked at the horizon as he slid back into the hatch, sweat icing on his neck. The tunnels felt quieter. No hum, no scrape. Maybe both armies were conserving energy. Felix wheeled the supplies onto the platform and turned on a battery lantern. Paint spirits rose from the wall, warier than before. Their edges had faded, like old billboards in sun. "You'll return," one murmured. "Barely," Felix said. He beckoned the neon demons with a mirror shard, reflecting light down the tracks. They emerged, glow-attenuated, but eyes, if you called those flickering electrodes eyes, bright with hunger. Felix knelt by the edge of the platform. "I have an idea. It involves trust and cross-pollination." He lifted 2 tubes as example, one clear, one saturated with cobalt phosphor. These contain powdered minerals that light up with almost no electricity, if the coating's fresh. You neon folk know that, but your coatings are decades old, cracked, leaking. You're starving. He opened a Ziploc and poured shimmering powder into his palm. It glittered like ground stars. New phosphor, enough for you to recharge, provided someone can activate it. The demons leaned closer, heatless glow caressing his hand. Activation requires a spark, Felix continued. The tunnels still have minimal current on auxiliary lines. If we reroute that and combine it with this powder, you can keep glowing indefinitely, without feeding on fresh paint. The lead demon's tubing flickered in cautious patterns. And you want what in return? Your light, Felix said. Paint spirits fade without sunlight. Underground, they leach color each night. If you lend them your glow, just a fraction, they stay vibrant. In return, they reinforce your cracked casings with their pigments, sealing you, preventing more leaks. Symbiosis. The two factions regarded each other like rival gangs sizing up a dance floor. One paint spirit oozed forward, shape-shifting into a hand that dripped ultramarine. We can bind glass, it said, voice tremulous. Our medium fuses at touch. A demon extended skeletal fingers of neon tubing. Their tips met. A sizzling halo of blue-orange radiated, then steadied into a solid seam, as though paint and glass had decided to knit. Gasps of color traveled the platform. Spirits pressed against glass demons, painting cracks until they vanished. Demons, in turn, pulsed soft radiance into fading colors, reviving them to sullen brightness. Felix let out a shaky laugh. It worked, at least in miniature. But an entire tunnel system required engineering. He'd bought time. He hadn't bought harmony. All right, he said. Phase 2. He pulled the electroluminescent wire. We rig a backbone. The augs lines feed the wire powers nodes where you demons can dock and recharge. Paint spirits, you'll insulate the wire, hide it behind fresh murals so city inspectors never see. Win-win. He expected argument, but what came was collaboration. Paint spirits rippled up walls to trace routes, sensing where tile flaked loose. Demons shot sparks at corroded switchboxes and jumped circuits. Felix directed with gestures, sweating, breathing aerosol and metal. Hours dissolved. He slipped into the zone-same headspace he entered while painting a junction of instinct and craft. Only now his canvas was infrastructure and his assistants were glowing myths. By what might have been mid-morning, a loop of emerald wire circled the platform ceiling, connected to a patched junction box. Felix threw the breaker he'd jury-rigged. Posh. Then the wire glowed. A serpentine ribbon of celadon. The electrostatic field spilled over the tracks. Neon demons sidled up and their internal gases flared like sunrise. Paint spirits basked, pigments humming richer than before. No one was being devoured. The lead demon approached Felix. Debt is balanced, it said. Not yet, Felix said, surprising himself. We need a pact, so this lasts when I'm gone. He rummaged in his bag and produced a fresh cancrum silver. Shaking it, he faced the longest stretch of blank tile and began sketching a sigil. 2 intersecting circles, one blistering with color, the other threaded by luminous wire. Where circles met, he painted a stylized hand half aerosol mist, half glowing tube. Around it, he scrawled words in a hybrid language, glyphs he invented on impulse. The paint spirits supplied finishing flourishes. Neon demons fired pinpoint sparks to bake the silver so it hardened like enamel. When he stepped back, the mural felt older than the city, younger than dawn. It pulsed, color and light, tethered in a lazy heartbeat. Felix realized he'd created a covenant. Maybe not legally binding, but down here, in this myth-haunted dark, it was law. He looked at his watch. 8 hours had bled away. Sunrise itself meant nothing 80 feet below, but somehow, as if acknowledging the schedule, both factions retreated. Demons toward the charging nodes, spirits into the deep seams of fresh color. Felix, trembling with adrenaline, sat cross-legged on the platform, unsure whether to laugh or cry. He chose laugh, which turned to coughs, which turned to exhausted silence. He slept through most of the next day, phone silenced. When evening fell, he returned, not to police the truce, but to witness it. The tunnel greeted him with a hush, broken by soft hums. Every 20 feet, neon demons reclined like gargoyles on glass perches, glowing steady, content. Paint spirits flowed around them like living frescoes, replenishing cracks, dappling edges with gradients. Felix reached the Covenant mural. It shimmered with a dignity he hadn't seen in his own work before. He touched the tile. Warmth tingled his fingers. Behind him, a voice. Creator! He turned to find both delegations arrayed together. The lead demon's grin flickered mild cerulean. The first paint spirit's halo glimmered chartreuse. Our treaty stands, the spirit said. Balance holds, confirmed the demon. Felix nodded, overcome by a fullness he'd never found in gallery praise. Then my job is done. He packed his gear. Before climbing the ladder, he hesitated. I'll come check on you, he said, feeling absurd to be promising walls and lights. But you won't need me. That's incorrect, the demon said. Felix stiffened. You gave us continuity, it went on. Yet novelty fades. New conflict will return. Inspectors, scavengers, rival artists. We cannot negotiate with them. You can. You are liaison, the paint spirit agreed, eyes glowing wide. Our ambassador to the meat world. Felix pictured his hermit life dissolving. No more anonymity. He'd have to manage human permits, bribe tunnel workers, deflect curiosity, all to protect beings city planners would never admit existed. He thought about the nights he'd spent alone, convinced solitude was part of his blood. Maybe it had been. Maybe that blood had just changed color. He slung the duffel, lighter than before, across his shoulder. Fine, he said. But ambassadors need sleep and rent. Let me handle those first. Accepted, both factions replied, oddly formal. Felix climbed toward streetlight glow. Rain had come and gone, leaving everything slick and new. On the river, neon reflections danced crimson and jade. Spray paint, he realized, was only one way to keep color alive. Negotiation messy. Uncertain negotiation was another. He headed home, mind buzzing with future tasks. Reinforce the auxiliary grid with solar trickle charges. Design decoy panels to distract utility inspectors. Persuade June to consult on permanent glasswork. And maybe, just maybe, paint a fresh mural topside, this time signed. Authorship no longer felt like a shackle, it felt like a bridge. Behind him, deep under Chicago's beating streets, paint spirits swirled in living celebration. Neon demons pulsed steady as hearts, and a silver covenant shone brighter than any signature he'd ever scratched on brick. The ghost loop wasn't dead. It had become the city's hidden artery, pumping color and light in equal measure. And for once, Felix Vega walked above ground without flinching from the world, carrying its secret in every paint-smudged fingerprint he left behind.